Many years ago, in small village called Owode, lived a young girl named Ayo. At the age of 17, Ayo's life was full of promise. She dreamed of exploring beyond the confines of her small village, of learning new things and of making a name for herself. Her beauty was renowned, her kindness well noted, and her spirit admired by all. However, as fate would have it, Ayo's life was destined for a different path, one that she could never have anticipated. One day, Ayo found out she was pregnant at 17. The news was shocking and terrifying for her. She had always been careful, yet here she was, carrying a child without being married. Fear and anxiety crushed at her heart as she thought about the implications. Desperate and alone, she decided to confide in her family, hoping they would understand and support her. But instead of the compassion she yearned for, she was met with harsh judgment and rejection. Her parents, deeply ashamed and disappointed, disowned her. They couldn't bear the thought of their family's reputation being tarnished by Ayo's mistake. Village street moral codes dictated harsh punishment for such transgressions, and Ayo's parents feared the judgment of their peers. With nowhere else to turn to, Ayo sought refuge with her aunt Zara, who lived in a small house at the edge of the village. Aunt Zara welcomed her with open arms, providing the warmth and comfort Ayo so desperately needed. Life with Aunt Zara, however, was far from easy. Days turned into weeks and Ayo's pregnancy became more noticeable. Villagers' whispers grew louder and their stares became more judgmental. Every time Ayo walked through the village, she could feel their eyes on her, piercing her with disapproval and disdain. "Look at her," they would murmur, "so young and already in trouble. Such a shame," another would say. "She had so much potential. What a shameless girl." Ayo tried to ignore the hurtful comments, but they weighed heavily on her heart. The once cheerful girl felt her spirit slowly being crushed by the villagers' harsh words. She missed the day when she was carefree and full of dreams. Now her life was overshadowed by shame and fear of what the future might hold. Despite the gossip and judgment, Ayo found strength in her aunt's unwavering support. Aunt Zara was always there to comfort her, reminding her that she was not alone. She would often tell Ayo stories of strong women who faced adversity and overcame great challenges. These stories inspired Ayo and gave her hope that she would also rise above her circumstances. One day, as Ayo walked through the bustling village square, she heard the familiar whispers and saw the villagers pointing at her. She held her head high and tried to walk with confidence, but inside she felt like breaking down. She wished she could disappear into the forest and never come back. Just then, an elderly woman named Mama Kemi approached her. Mama Kemi was known for her wisdom and kindness. She took Ayo's hands and led her away from the prying eyes of the villagers. They walked to a quiet spot under a large tree, where Mama Kemi looked at Ayo with gentle eyes. "Child," she said softly, "I know it is not easy for you right now. People can be cruel and judgmental, but you must remember that their words do not define you. You are strong and you have a good heart. Do not let any of their negativity bring you down." Tears welled up in Ayo's eyes as she listened to Mama Kemi's comforting words. She felt a glimmer of hope returning to her heart. Mama Kemi's kindness reminded her that not everyone in the village was against her. "Thank you, Mama Kemi," Ayo whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I needed to hear that." Mama Kemi smiled and patted her hand. "You are not alone, Ayo. There are still people who care about you. Hold on to that and keep your faith strong." As Ayo walked back to Aunt Zara's house, she felt a renewed sense of determination. She realized that she could not let the villagers' gossip define her. She had to be strong for herself and her unborn child. With Aunt Zara's support and the kindness of people like Mama Kemi, Ayo knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. However, life took another unexpected turn when Aunt Zara fell gravely ill. One morning, Ayo found her aunt struggling to get out of bed. her face pale and her breathing labored. Panic gripped Ayo's heart as she rushed to her aunt's side. "Aunt Zara, what's wrong?" Ayo asked, her voice trembling with fear. Aunt Zara gave her a weak smile. "It's nothing, my dear, just a little tiredness." But Ayo could see that it was much more than that. She quickly fetched some water and helped her aunt drink. Aunt Zara's condition worsened over the next few days, and Ayo was filled with dread. She couldn't bear the thought of losing the only person who had stood by her side. With a heavy heart, Ayo sought help from Mama Kemi. The wise woman came to Aunt Zara's house and did everything she could to ease her suffering. Despite her efforts, Aunt Zara's health continued to decline. Ayo spent every moment by her side, holding her hand and praying for a miracle. One quiet evening, as the sun set over the village, Aunt Zara called Ayo to her bedside. Her voice was faint, but her eyes were filled with love and concern. "Ayo," she said softly, "I want you to know that I love you very much. You are like a daughter to me. I am proud of the strong woman you are becoming." Tears streamed down Ayo's cheek as she listened to her aunt's words. "I love you too, Aunt Zara. Please don't leave me. I don't know what I would do without you." Aunt Zara smiled weakly. "You are stronger than you think, my dear. You have faced so much already, and you will continue to face whatever comes your way. Promise me that you will stay strong and take care of yourself and your baby." "I promise, Aunt Zara," Ayo whispered, her voice choked with emotion. With a final gentle squeeze of Ayo's hands, Aunt Zara closed her eyes and took her last breath. Ayo's heart broke into a million pieces as she realized that her beloved aunt was gone. The weight of her loss was almost unbearable. In the days that followed, Ayo felt lost and alone. The villagers continued to gossip. They called her a child of bad omen, unfortunate child, but their words seemed distant and unimportant compared to the pain she felt inside. Ayo knew she had to stay strong, just as she had promised Auntie Zara. She found solace in the forest, where she would sit among the trees and remember her aunt's loving words. Ayo was determined to honor Auntie Zara's memory by being strong and resilient. She knew that life would not be easy, but she had to keep going for the sake of her unborn child. Aunt Zara's love and support had given her the strength to face the challenges ahead, and Ayo vowed to carry that strength with her always. One day, as Ayo wandered in the forest to find some peace, she felt a sharp pain in her belly. Panic surged through her as she realized that her baby was coming and there was no one around to help her. She sank to her knees beneath the canopy of trees, clutching her swollen belly as waves of pain washed over her. Tears streamed down Ayo's face as she cried in agony. She was terrified and alone, and with no one to assist her. She prayed for strength and courage, knowing she had to give birth in the wilderness. With each contraction, she pushed with all her might, her body trembling with exhaustion. After what felt like an eternity, Ayo finally gave birth to her twins boys. Their cries filled the forest, a sound that should have brought her joy. But instead, Ayo felt a deep sense of despair. She looked down at her newborn sons, their eyes wide open and blue like the sky. Overwhelmed by her situation, she whispered to them, "You have brought me so much pain. Since the day I conceived you, it has been pain and agony. Because of you, I am miserable and separated from the love of the family I once known." In her grief and desperation, Ayo made a heart-wrenching decision. She believed that she could not care for the twins and their lives would be filled with suffering if they stayed with her. With a heavy heart, Ayo dug a small hole in the earth and buried her newborn babies among the trees. She believed it was the only way to end her suffering and their own. As she covered the tiny graves with soil, Ayo's heart broke into a million pieces. She felt a profound sense of loss and guilt, but she believed she had done what was best. She whispered a prayer for their souls and hoped they would find peace in their afterlife. Ayo returned to the village, her spirit shattered and her heart heavy with sorrow. She carried the weight of her decision with her, feeling as though a part of her soul has been buried with her babies. Though her heart was broken, Ayo was determined to find a way to heal and create a better future for herself. As time passed, Ayo tried to rebuild her life. She continued to live in the small house that has once belonged to Aunt Zara, doing her best to find some semblance of normalcy. Ayo's life took an unexpected turn when she met Tunde, a wealthy and kind-hearted businessman who was captivated by her strength and resilience. Despite her initial hesitations and the scars of her past, Ayo found herself drawn to Tunde's kindness, generosity, and the love he offered without reservation. His determination to pursue her melted the walls she had built around her heart, and in time, their love grew into a bond that surpassed all barriers. Their love culminated in a lavish ceremony where Ayo became Tunde's beloved wife. Together, they exchanged vows of love and devotion, promising to stand by each other through thick and thin. Their union brought joy and fulfillment into Ayo's life, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of belonging and happiness. Her new life with Tunde was filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a brighter future. A few months into their marriage, Ayo discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the news was met with overwhelming joy and excitement. The anticipation of welcoming a new life into their family filled their home with happiness. Tunde doted on Ayo, showering her with love and care, ensuring that she lacked nothing during their special time. Their days were filled with laughter and dreams of the future they would build together as a family. As the month passed, the day finally arrived for Ayo to give birth. To their amazement, she brought forth twins once again. However, her joy was short-lived as she looked into the eyes of her newborn boys and saw the same piercing blue eyes that has haunted her memories for years. A chill ran down her spine as she recoiled in shock, her mind reeling with disbelief. How could her past come back to haunt her in such a familiar way? Strange occurrences began to plague their household, casting a shadow of fear and unease over their once peaceful home. It started subtle at first, objects moving on their own, strange noises echoing through the house at odd hours, and a pervasive sense of dread that hung in the air. Ayo tried to dismiss this event as mere coincidences, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was at play. One night, as Ayo lay in bed, she heard soft whispers coming from the twins' room. Her heart raced as she crept towards the door, straining to hear the words. The whispers grew louder, more distant, and she realized with a jolt of fear that they were not in any language she recognized. Gathering her courage, she pushed the door open and found the twins sitting up in their cribs, their eyes glowing eerily in the dim light. They stopped whispering and turned to stare at her, their expressions unnervingly blank. She backed out of the room, her heart pounding, and closed the door, feeling a cold sweat break out across her skin. The next morning, Ayo tried to bring up the incident with Tunde, but he brushed it off as a figment of her imagination, perhaps a result of stress and exhaustion. Ayo wanted to believe him, but as the days went by, the strange event only escalated. Toys would be found in peculiar places, lights flickered on and off without explanation, and an unsettling coldness spread through the twins' room. Each time she attempted to comfort her sons, they would jiggle in a way that sent shivers down her spine, their laughter filled with a chilling malice. One afternoon, while Ayo was cooking in the kitchen, she felt a sudden sharp pain in her hand. She looked down to find a deep cut, though she couldn't recall how it happened. As she wrapped her hand in a towel, she heard the twins laughing from the living room. When she went to check on them, she found them staring at her with those same unnerving blue eyes. Their smiles twisted in a way that made her blood run cold. It was as if they were taking pleasure in her pain. That night, Ayo woke up to find the twins standing at the foot of her bed, their eyes glowing in darkness. She gasped in horror, her heart pounding in her chest. They didn't move, they didn't speak, just stood there staring at her with those haunting blue eyes. She screamed for Tunde, but by the time he rushed into the room, The twins were back in their cribs, fast asleep. Tunde tried to reassure her, but Ayo knew what she had seen. He could feel the malevolent presence in the house growing stronger. As the days turned into weeks, the situation only grew worse. Ayo would wake up with bruises and scratches, with no memory of how she got them. Objects would fly across the room, narrowly missing her. The twins' behavior became increasingly disturbing. They refused to eat. Their giggles turned into a strange laughter, and they would often be found whispering to each other in that same strange language. Ayo's nerves were frayed to the breaking point, and she felt like she was losing her mind. One evening, as Ayo was bathing the twins, she felt a sudden, icy grip around her ankle. She looked down to see a pair of small, ghostly hands emerging from the water, pulling her down. She screamed and kicked, breaking free from the grip. And stumbling back, the twins laughed strangely, their eyes glowing with a sinister light. Ayo knew then that she had to find a way to break the curse that had befallen her family. Desperate for answers, Ayo sought out the village elder, a wise woman named Mama Awa. She recounted the event to her, tears streaming down her face. Mama Awa listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each word. When Ayo finished, Mama Awa nodded gravely and told her that the twins were the reincarnated spirits of the children she had buried all those years ago. They had come back seeking vengeance for the wrongs done to them. Mama Awa explained that the only way to break the curse was to seek forgiveness from the spirit of the children and to make amends for the past. She gave Ayo a list of items needed for a cleansing ritual and instructed her to perform it in the forest where the twins had been buried. Ayo felt a glimmer of hope, but also a deep sense of dread. The thought of confronting the spirits of her lost children was almost too much to bear, but she knew it was the only way to save her family. Armed with the items given to her by Mama Awa, Ayo ventured into the forest one moonlight night. The air was thick with tension as she approached the spot where she had buried her sons. She could feel their presence, a cold, oppressive force that pressed down on her. Taking a deep breath, she began the ritual. Chanting the incantations Mama Awa had taught her, she poured libations on the ground and offered outfit apologies, her voice trembling with emotion. As she finished the ritual, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the trees, and she felt a pair of ghostly hands resting on her shoulders. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face, and whispered words of forgiveness and love. The air around her seemed to grow warmer, and the oppressive force lifted. She opened her eyes to see two small, translucent figures standing before her, their blue eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and acceptance. The figures slowly faded away, and Ayo felt a weight lifted off her shoulders. She knew that the spirit of her children had forgiven her, and that the curse had been broken. With a heavy heart but a renewed sense of hope, she made her way back to the village. As she walked, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She knew that she had been given a second chance to make things right and to build a life filled with love and forgiveness. Returning home, Ayo found Tunde and the twins waiting for her. The twins, now free from the malevolent spirits, looked up at her with innocent, bright eyes. Ayo embraced them, tears of joy streaming down her face. She knew that she could now build a future together, free from the shadows of the past. Tunde, who had always stood by her side, embraced her as well, his love and support unwavering. Together they faced the future with hope and determinations, ready to build a life filled with love, understanding, and redemption. As the years passed, the twins, no longer burdened by the spirits of their past lives, flourished in their new environment, their laughter and joy filling the once haunted home with light and warmth. Ayo and Tunde dedicated themselves to creating a loving and supporting home, ensuring that their children grew up in an environment free from the shadows of the past. As the years passed, Ayo and Tunde's love for each other grew stronger, their bond deepened by the trials they had faced together. Their home was filled with laughter and love, and the joyful chaos of their children's antics. The twins, now thriving and happy, brought endless joy and pride to their parents. Ayo's heart swelled with gratitude as she watched them grow, knowing that their future was filled with endless possibilities. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please do subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Thank you so much. I will see you in another story. Till then, bye for now.